Hello everybody and welcome to your next AllegroHD tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be learning on how to distribute our Allegro files professionally to other people. You guys might already know how to distribute your files to other computers or anything and let your games run it, and that's cool. But in my tutorials I like to make my tutorials really easy but take a professional approach to it. So what we're going to do in this tutorial, we're going to be learning how to package all our required files and put them into an installer, and therefore when people run your file they can install your game onto their computer. Your program will show up into all programs and they can select it and run it, add it to your computer as a shortcut, etc., etc. This is good because you don't have to just give them a zip file with packaging all the files and all that stuff. It just makes it more professional. You might think this is kind of extra, but it's up to you. But for Visual Studio users, this is going to be set up into two different videos. This one's for Visual Studio and the next one's for code blocks. For Visual Studio, there's some added required files that we indeed need to run our applications on other computers, so that's why I decided to set it up into two different tutorials. So for Visual Studio, when you create your programs and you decide to send them to other computers, you might get a few errors. Like they'll say like the file msvcr100.dll is missing, whatever, etc., etc. And you really don't wanna to run into problems. And the reason why those problems are happening is because the end user, doesn't have the Microsoft Redistributable Package. And you can always, when you're distributing your game, say, oh, one of the requirements is the Redistributable Package. But instead of doing that, we're going to learn how to package the required files we need into our installer, so we don't have to give the user a hard time. We don't sometimes they have like what are called install prerequisites. So then they'll say that this requires DirectX. Do you want to install DirectX right now? And you'll say yes, and you'll install it, and then you'll install the required program. We can do this, but with the tool I'm going to use to make the installer right now, in order to do that, you need the professional version, which costs roughly over $300. So I'm just going to be teaching you the free version, and the results are going to be the same. The results are going to end up being the same, so it doesn't really matter which one you use. So to get started, what we want to do is we want to go to advancedinstaller.com, and you'll be greeted with this page, and what you want to do is download the freeware version. Now I trust you know how to install programs, so once you're done installing it, then you can open it up. So I'm going to close this, and you can open it up if you want. But before we even get started with anything with Advanced Installer, the Redistributable Package gives us 3 vital files that we need to distribute in order to distribute our games to the end user. And these 3 files are msvcr100.dll, msvcr100, msvcrd 100.dll, and msvcp or something 100.dll. So we need these 3 files in order to run our games on other computers. So what we want to do is that we want to actually find those files. Now firstly, you need to know if your computer system is a 64-bit system or if it's a 34-bit system. If you're running if you're running Windows 7, then most likely it's a 64-bit system. But just to check, you should search for, go to my computer or whatever and search for syswow, and just do that search. Or sorry, go to C and then search for syswow. And if you have syswow 64, then it is a 64-bit computer. If you don't have it and you only have system 32, then it's a 32-bit. The reason why you need to know is that if you have a 64-bit system, then you need to get the required files from your 64-bit folder from sysfile64. And if you're a 32-bit system, then you have to get the files from 32. The reason being is that with Visual Studio, when you compile your programs, you're compiling it using the type of bit computer you have. So if you get the 32-bit files and put them into your game folder or something, it's going to say these aren't the right files because you're taking the 32-bit files, but you really need the 64-bit files in order to run your program, and vice versa. So if you have sysfile64, you open that folder, and if you don't have it, then you search for system32 and then open that folder. So once we open sysfile64, what we want to do is we want to just create a folder on our desktop or whatever and name it redistributable, and I just named it redistributable 64-bit. The reason being is that with every program you create, you're going to need these 3 files, so might as well save them in a folder where you have easy access. So once we have it, what we're going to search for is MSVCR100. Oh, sorry. Oh, and note, if you're using Visual Studio 10, then you'll be searching for, or Visual C++ 2010, then you'll search for MSVCR 100. If you're using Visual Studio 2009, then you'll search for MSVCR 90. And if you're using Visual Studio 2008, you'll search for MSVCR 80, and etc, etc. So I'm using Visual Studio 2010, so I'll search for MSVCR 100. And I see MSVCR 100.dll and MSVCR 100d.dll. So what we want to do is copy these two and paste them into our folder. So we just drag and drop or whatever and put them into our folder. So and then after we do that, we want to search for MSVCP, and then whichever version of Visual Studio you have. So if I have 10, I put 100, and then you see the DLL right there. There's also one for D, and the D stands for debug. So there's also a D version there, but you don't need it. If you're nervous that it won't run on other computers and you want to be on the safe side, then you can always include it. It's only it's 725 gigabytes, so it's not that much extra space. So you can incorporate that if you want, but you don't need it, and you put it in that folder as well. So once you've put all the required folders and such in the folder, then it's time to work with Advanced Installer. So let us open Advanced Installer. And once we open Advanced Installer, there's a bunch of templates that we have there, but we're not going to be using those templates. We're going to use Simple because all these templates require like professional or higher. So we're going to click Simple, and you can use them for 30 days for free, but I'm going to just teach you a simple version because after your 30-day free trial is over, then they'll be of no use to you. So I never clicked the wizard to actually go to the wizard, so I'm just going to be doing it this method. So first of all, we need our product name. So right now I'm just going to put AllegroHD, the product version, and our company name. So I'll just put Coding Made Easy. And these aren't all required, so it doesn't matter if you want to leave them blank or whatever, but so you don't need a product URL, update URL, any of these things. So once we're doing that, we can go to install parameters. We can say if we want it to be a 32-bit or 64-bit package. I will leave it as 32-bit because anybody running a 64-bit or 32-bit system can run your program. Therefore, anybody can run it. If you only make it 64-bit, then only people with newer computer systems or newer hard drives or whatever can run your game. And then to minimize installation time, I'd normally check these 3. You can't check this unless you have the professional version or higher. I just do this so the installation time goes faster, so yeah, generally that's a good thing. So for upgrades, this program is good too, because say you upgrade your program and you want to include an upgrade, then you can also include upgrades in it as well. And then if you have an upgrade, you can say the product version is now 1.1 or 1.0.1 or whatever, so on and so forth. And another reason, in my previous tutorials, like when I taught you how to do maps and stuff through a text file, this is beneficial because say you create you want to change your map, or your map becomes defective or something, or people are posing a problem, you can say, okay, here's a patch or whatever. You give them the map file as a patch, or you can incorporate it using advanced installer, change the product version, tell them to install it, and then it will patch up the program for them automatically. So you can also do that as well. So anyways, after we've done that, we don't need to worry about launch conditions or merge modules. Now, if you're using the professional version, there's something called the prerequisites, and using prerequisites, you can actually prompt the user to install the redistributable package through this installer. But in the simple version, we have to include our files separately. So what you want to do is go to resources and go to files and folders. Now the user is going to get to choose where they install the game or the files they want, but this is the folder that everything needs to be inserted into. So what we want to do is go to files, and first of all we want to put in our redistributable file. So we go to the file right there, and we just highlight all of them and open it. So then we want to go to files again, and we want to get our actual project files. So first of all, I'm going to go to C++ projects and go to AllegroHD, and I'm going to go to release. Now you see that there's debug and release. Well, first of all, instead of sending the debug version when you're compiling it, it's best to change the compile type to release by just clicking here and then clicking release and then rebuilding your project, and it will create a release folder and send it. The reason being is that it's set for optimization. It has additional options for optimization. So what you want to do is that you want to add a file, and you want to go to release. So I'm going to go C++ projects, AllegroHD release, and click the exe file or type application and add that there. Now also, before we add all the we'll add all the required files right now. So we'll go back a page and we'll click our folder name again and add all the files that we will need in our program. So we could add our fonts, our blocks, everything we need in our program. We can incorporate it, and we just open that. And for our sprites folder, we click folder, and we do the same thing. Go to our folder. So click sprites, click select folder, and it adds it. Now everything seems good so far, but we need one more thing in order for our program to run. We need the Allegro42.dll. Now you guys might be saying, well, there is a way that you don't really need to use all these DLL files by statically linking, but that just is going to make it a bit more complicated. So there's really no point in you can learn static linking if you want, if you don't want to include all those DLLs, but that's for you to learn. So what you want to do is go to the folder where you installed Visual Studio. You want to click Visual Studio and then find VC. So this is basically the same folder where we put the files where we installed Allegro. And then we want to go to bin, and at the top you'll see alleg42.dll, and we want to add that too. And if you want to add that to your redistributable folder, you can do that as well. That's probably advised. It's probably the best method. But yeah, so we have all the required files that we need. So the last thing we need to do is create an option in the start menu so they can start your game from the start menu. So we'll click this arrow right here for start menu, go to programs, and we'll right click and we'll click we'll go to new folder and click regular. And name the folder whatever you want to name it. I'll name it CME. And after you do that, you want to go to the top and click shortcut to, and it'll bring you to the default application folder, and you just want to click the exe. Click OK. Name it what you want to name it. So I'll just name it AllegroHD. Description if you want a hotkey, etc., etc. And then click OK. And that's all you'll need. And if you want to edit, there's a whole bunch of things you can edit, like going to the dialogues. like for the welcome dialog, this is what it will say when they open your setup, etc., etc., and all the different things that it goes through in order to download your program. You can add a show. You can do a show README option, launch application at the end of installation, and you select the application you want to install to run when they do it. So you can select those. So it's really up to you what you want to incorporate. It's not up to me to decide. It's based on what you really want to do. So once you've done that, what you want to do is go to home, and you can just run it or click build. It's up to you, but I'm going to click build to build it, and I'll just name it AllegroHD and save it on my desktop, and it will build it for me. So we'll just wait for that to build. And once that's done building, we're gonna click run to show you what the installation process, what it goes through. So once we click run, it will show us our first dialog. So the same dialog that shows up here. It says welcome to AllegroHD setup wizard, etc., etc. We click next, save it where we want to save it. So I'll click next, install it. It will install the program. It will ask. Something will pop up to say if you have administrative rights or to confirm if you want to actually install it. You do that. You can select launch AllegroHD and click finish, and after that it will launch it. Now it cannot find map file 1. I guess I never incorporated it, and that was my fault, but that essentially, once you do that, you'll be able to run your program. So if you go to start menu and you go to all programs, I name my folder CME. So if I scroll down, click CME, my program's in there, and you click it and you can run it. You can also set an icon that you want for your program. I think you can set an icon that shows up in the control panel. Like if you want to uninstall or anything or delete it, you can put an icon for that as well. So there's a lot of different customizations you can use using Advanced Installer. It's a really great program that you can use. So that is essentially the way that you can create an installer in order to install your games on other people's computers. It looks professional, it's elegant, and yeah, it really just looks good. And if you distribute that to like your family members or anything, or say anything, they'll think the installer alone is just pretty cool, just to install your game on the computer and to run it and everything. So that is it for this tutorial. I know it's kind of long, but I hope you enjoyed every minute of it. And if you're using Visual Studio, then this is your last tutorial. If you're not using Visual Studio, then this is your second last tutorial. So thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoyed this, and bye.